If you were under a rock this weekend, or perhaps your spaceship just landed from another planet, Tom Brady announced he'll be returning to the Bucs. Congrats, Blaine. After a short hiatus away from the game, it's almost hard to call it a retirement, though, without missing any games. But nonetheless, the GOAT is back on the ranch. A short time ago, Tom Brady led the league in passing touchdowns and yards, so this isn't a shake the rust off situation and hope to get back to form. At 44, Tom Brady is still sporting a 45 attached to his right shoulder as he returns to a Bucs team that has a roster capable of winning a Super Bowl. And the weapons around Brady are as plentiful as when he left. To me, they're the clear favorite to win the Super Bowl this next season, because Tom Brady is great at creating chips and winning ships. He will use the so-called comeback as a rallying cry, continue to use the moniker that he's too old, and the other aspects of his return that give him even more tackling fuel, as the water boy so eloquently put it. Doubting Tom Brady is a dangerous game, and I, for one, will not partake. People will try to say that eventually the clock will run out on Tom Brady's ability, and that may be so. But does time ever really run out for a modern-day Benjamin Button? I'll bring in our co-hosts, David Cohn, Blaine Crain, who did call the Tom Brady returning, episode. I'm not betting against the guy.
Never.
I'm not betting against him. You know, I know Bruce Arians and them are super jacked and tan about him returning, and you look at the roster that he's coming back to that he just happened to leave. Brandon Scherf did go to the Bengals, a big piece of the offensive line. But am I crazy to think Tom Brady's going to win the Super Bowl this next year?
First of all, last week there was a sports show with three well-dressed, intelligent young men. They gave speeches to Tom Brady on why he should come back. 5 days later, he comes back to football. I have to think that played a big part in this, okay? But I'll digress. Tom Brady spent 40 days retired, gentlemen. 40 days, which proved my point last week. There's only so many rounds of golf one can play. Okay, so if he comes back and says, my goal is to win 5 more Super Bowls, who's betting against Tom Brady at this point? You have to be crazy. And my thing is, this is good for football. If you love Tom Brady, obviously you get to see the greatest ever to do it play more games. If you hate Tom Brady, then the first interception he throws, which he will, the people who hate Tom Brady will be excited. The first game he loses, which he will, they'll be excited about that. But for NFL fans everywhere, this is like Christopher Walken and Will Ferrell in an SNL sketch, needing more cowbell. We just need more Tom Brady.
Yeah, it's crazy, for real. But Blaine,
yes,
and I know you called this. I got to give you your props.
Thank you.
Do you think it was more of, going home every day, daddy, go throw the ball with me, or all of a sudden the hyperbaric chamber turns into a bounce house that all the kids come over and hang out in, and I guess when you're married to Giselle, it's a pretty good deal. But do you think it was more of him just the competitive fire, or do you think he was at home for 40 days, which the Major League Baseball was locked out for longer than Tom Brady locked himself out of the NFL.
Yeah.
Wow.
But do you think it was more of Tom Brady's competitive fire to come back, or he spent 40 days in the house and was like, no, this ain't it?
Competitive fire for sure. I mean, you got to remember, Tom left with the most touchdowns and the most passing yards in the year out of everybody. So it's not like he was falling off whatsoever. And, the day after he retired, I just knew he was coming back. I saw the tweet and I was like, I'm shocked, which I wasn't at all, because at the end of the day, Tom, I think he always wanted to come back and realistically didn't want to.
Well, what made him retire?
I think family had a lot to do with it.
Well, obviously after 40 days.
You go back to Giselle and kind of what she was talking about with concussions coming home. And I think he had to go through his family first to get this done, or his family says something to him. Because at the end of the day, family knows, all right? Family knows. And you got to think down the road, if you're an NFL football player, what's life's going to be like after football. Because that's a real thing. Mm-hmm. All right. I think they went to Tom, the kids, Giselle, and said, Tom, we can tell you aren't happy right now.
What's the matter, Dad?
We can tell you aren't happy. And we just want you to know that, 1, we love you. All right. And 2, if you want to play, go play. Because I think Tom's a family guy. And once the family gave him the okay, he's back at it.
Well, Cone, there's a couple things. The only thing I really had a problem with was why did you do this right after the brackets got revealed? Can the NFL just give another sport just 30 minutes? They're just, you know what the NFL's like? They're like that person, that always has to one-up your story with another story. It's like you tell one of your best stories, and he's like, well, let me tell you about the time I got trapped in Mount Everest or something like that. So the timing of it, to me, I wasn't in love with. And if you're Kyle Trask, aren't you just kind of man,
I was going to be so good. Look, two theories on this, okay? Either one, remember there was some controversy when Adam Schefter broke this story to begin with?
There was.
Like, no, I wasn't going to retire.
His dad came out.
What if this is what happened, okay? Tom Brady had no intentions of retiring this season, okay? But Adam Schefter breaks that story, and then Adam Schefter calls Tom like, look, I've never been wrong on breaking news before. Could you at least tell people that, yeah, you are retiring, and then like 40 days later,
the breaking sports news black market? Is that what you're telling me?
Fine, I never had any intentions, but I'll go ahead and retire for 40 days, and then after
or if Adam comes like, listen, according to my sources, you were going to retire, but what if you just...
According to your sources, is me.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my first theory. Or second, Tom Brady was hanging out with Cristiano Ronaldo this weekend. Man United. I'm like, man, this guy hangs out with Cristiano Ronaldo one time, and he's already coming back into
Maybe the wedge game just wasn't as good as what he thought.
You mean Cristiano hung out with him?
Fact. Thank you for correcting me. Thank you for correcting me there. Legit question, though. Is the NFC up for grabs? I mean, like, it seems like, look, the Rams took their shot, right? They won a championship. Look, Aaron Rodgers is getting paid so much. People are saying now Devontae Adams doesn't want to be franchised in Green Bay. The 49ers looks like Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be their long-term solution. Is he coming back and the NFC is up for grabs right now?
It's when Tom Brady enters the fray, it's always up for grabs.
Fair enough.
Now that he's in, now I do want to see if Deshaun Watson, I know we're going to get into that, goes to an NFC team. Because if I'm Houston, there's no way in hell I'm letting him go somewhere in the AFC. We'll get to that in a second. But this whole situation, and Tom, I think, does a good job. He has some quotes every now and then. He'll throw it out there. But the timing of it I had a problem with. And again, like I said at the top of the show, I'm not betting against this man to not win the Super Bowl. I won't do it. All right, hey, if you like what you heard, go ahead and ring that bell. Turn those notifications on. We're bringing it every day, daily from 2 to 3 Central, and we want you here. I can hear it ringing now.